So now we start the next panel called Artificial Natures with Anna POMPERMAIER and Cenk GÜZELIS as the first speaker duo with the presentation on Be My Guest, the Spatial Internet. Another Me, which is a creative partnership of Anna and Cenk, is a new media-driven artistic and architectural research studio exploring the future of our spatial experiences and communication through practical applications of social mixed reality experiences focused on online culture, post-human critique, and spatial web. Anna and Cenk are interested in how social media and the internet have evolved to accommodate online communities in networked virtual spaces that have become alternative places to practice social and cultural activities, and how these virtual spaces affect the architecture of our social lives and social selves. Anna and Cenk are architects, educators, and researchers at Studio 3, the Institute for Experimental Architecture of Innsbruck University, where they conduct practice-led research at the intersection of experimental architecture, contemporary art, new media, and artificial intelligence. So please.
Thank you for having us here. Maybe to briefly introduce our major interest in XR coming also extended reality coming from architecture background is to kind of open up new modes of sociability through digital experiences, building upon the physical space as we all know it. And through our research, we kind of came to realize that our lived space of the future might be digitally curated by users in real time from various locations and time zones, and have somehow their own expanded spatial intelligence and materiality. So these environments that are populated by both local and distant communities might blend the virtual and the physical elements, and the placement at the same time of global data onto local spaces will intensify and expand on the affordances of the physical space. However, by now, the spatial internet, as we all know, especially in the past few years, is not only populated by humans, but also by non-human entities that have their own modes of presence, communication, expression, such as generative models and LLM models. So with the introduction of XR technologies and these intelligent models accessible somehow at our fingertips and at the speed of a click, we as architects and designers potentially of our future livable domains ironically and critically asked ourselves what do actually these technologies and intelligent systems know about the human experience, and what do they understand about our lived environments, about our everyday objects, our rituals, about our sociocultural happenings. So we decided to test somehow this idea, of course, with a good dose of irony and critical perspective, by creating a one-to-one XR installation that we ultimately named Be My Guest, that you might have eventually seen yesterday at the National Library. Be My Guest is a collective mixed reality dinner event that is hosted by an AI system. And the installation rethinks an age-old gathering rituals, which is a dinner with friends, where an AI becomes the host, the co-creator of the spatial experience and the physical objects. So the collective dinner transforms, in a way, the private setting of a home into a public domain, mirroring our current condition of dwelling in multiple realities simultaneously, and investigating how we inhabit and interact within these networked virtual spaces, and how we foster, of course, somehow parasitic relationship with AI systems, redefining the fabric of communal gathering in this digital age. My Guest is a performative multi-location mixed reality dinner where friends from distant places can come together through what we call the spatial or immersive internet for a dinner with an AI entity that is named Parasite. And so everything on the table, from the recipes to the conversations, from the cutlery to the objects, that are materialized through ceramic-based additive manufacturing technologies is ideated by Parasite. So centered on practices around food culture, the project practices the extent towards which potentially a social AI agent and generative models can integrate into daily routines, reflecting on the interconnected growth of our social organizations, languages, cognitive systems, and opens a ground for discussion about the emerging sociocultural role of intelligent models and their integration through new media technologies in our everyday social scenario. But we will try now to kind of show you a little bit the project ideation, the context, the research, as well as the technical setup, let's say. The project initiated from the simple reflection that for the last 2.6 million years, food has been an essential part of what makes us human, as our evolution has always been defined by food, but the technology that we have created to share it, and the rituals around this. Today, as the internet evolves into a more spatial, semantic, and personal form, these rituals are shifting. So the campfire as a place for cooking, for gathering, and collective storytelling has evolved over the century. It was a plaza, it was a public garden, a coffee shop, a parlor, a club, and today these social spaces are supplemented by and intertwined with social media, streaming platforms, online forums, multiplayer video games, and virtual worlds. So in a way, the modern day campfire has become the World Wide Web, and the home has become a new public space for these activities. Nevertheless, even in this digital context, food serves somehow as a sociocultural medium that creates spaces of togetherness. So through the last years, we have conducted a series of expeditions to virtual environments, all in the search of food-related rituals. For example, you can work in virtual cafes or deliver pizza in games like GTA, own a restaurant in Roblox, play mukbang while chatting with viewers on Twitch, or have dinner parties in virtual diners in VRChat, which is a platform we really have been spending some time in and explore different communities. You see here an expedition to a restaurant where we kind of chased ramen events. And so inspired by VRChat, however, knowing that the medium kind of disconnects from the physical inhabited space, we decided to move towards creating our own multi-user full body and tactile social mixed reality space, trying to use, of course, open source codes and APIs. And this social mixed reality space is based on the map of our home, so that we could host in it events that simultaneously changed our relationship, of course, with our homes, and included this habit of kind of dwelling in hybrid reality every day, into which we invited some friends to join us. So we kind of created our own mini spatial internet in which we lived in with friends from remote too.
Okay, so in parallel to this VRChat research, one of the phenomena that we had very much interest in the research was the online and streaming culture, where individuals create alternative forms of social gathering and dining through online streaming platforms through the use of affordances of the graphical user interfaces and a single camera to stream and share their lives uninterrupted, actions and environments through what we call, or what is called, spatial montaging, which we will elaborate further on soon. And specifically, we look into the subcategory of in real life streaming called social dining, where individuals eat together, arrange their rooms and play with the camera views, or overlay user-generated creative content that transforms their lived environment into such online vibrant hubs. And a big part of our research and teaching goes into this category and observe how home as a new place of labor, digital economy, and public stage to perform identity in a community mediated by screens and networks. So based on this form of gathering through streaming and considering the aforementioned focal point of our practice, we seek for spatial modes of socialization, because for us, social interactions come from the affordances of the spatial dimension only can offer. So we have created a virtual space to which through phones and cameras, again, using open softwares and kind of networking them, a person can stream themselves into a space or into a single space collectively. And so we began looking into this type of sociability through live streaming into a spatial dimension of home, in which the social mixed reality space we just showed, turning home into a stage to achieve an alternative kind of worlding. And we quickly understood that we want to lean towards this volumetric streaming as a method or mode of, for creating real-time digital space-making method. And as you might probably know, kind of different from the conventional camera system, volumetric streaming technology offers a depth channel alongside the color information, which is usually known as RGB to create an image. What volumetric streaming does is that it adds the depth channel, so image becomes RGBD plus time, so RGBDT. So it becomes a time-based media object that is a spatial content that can be navigated or arranged. Maybe this video explains a little bit better. So we use the Unity game engine and then Record 3D, which is an open app that anyone can use, through which people can volumetrically stream themselves from distances with their mobile phones into a virtual environment, which is in this case, our virtual home. And in this setup, what is different than the previous mode of streaming is that visitors or guests don't rely on typing to communicate or to chat with the host, but they rather use their physical presence, voice, gestures in the space they are immersed into. So the host, in this case, Anna and I, can invite friends into our home. Interestingly, and subsequently, what happens is that this altered or changed the way we inhabit our physical space, because it can be constantly reconfigured through the arrangement and curation of the digital content in real time in the mixed reality. Like what you have seen there through grabbing and placing. So what was interesting is that like when guests start streaming themselves, basically you can pinch person and then place it in front of you. And so the physical space somehow is arranged through the digital content.
And somehow in this hybrid setting of home, we had this idea, as we mentioned before, of exploring both the design capabilities as well the intelligence of these models, to kind of integrate in what are our daily routines, to also, of course, understand better the limitations that we all know that exist, that come from their data sets and so on. So in collaboration with our friend Belda Madanri from MIT Media Lab, we created our own AI agent, incorporating at the time speech to text for speech recognition and transcription, text to speech modules, as well as modules for biography, for background knowledge, and something that is a memory stream. So we spent numerous hours somehow engaging with it, and it learned about, additionally to what it already knew, what our interest was, somehow this becoming a host of a dinner event. This AI agent we called Parasite. The name comes from somehow the original meaning of the word, that is parasitos in Greek, that means besides the food. So it signifies something like a companionship, sharing meals. And it's also a reference to Michel Serres' notion of the parasite, which explores the dynamics of human relationships and systems through the metaphor of parasitism, emphasizing this constant exchange and interference within networks. And the parasite represents our relationship to language and or the relationship between language and the AI model somehow, because the language becomes its food in this continuous interplay between us and the model, both constantly learning and evolving with each other, consuming each other's data, sharing and inhabiting the same space. During the creative process, we decided to also explore the design capabilities of these models, and their affordances in mediating, of course, what we said, this very physical and very simple act of dining. through what we then ended up calling exploratory objects that, of course, were a way of also ironically observing all the fractures, flaws, and embodied forms in the way that we dine. These are some examples of this object. We have, for example, an Italian spoon that no one will ever recognize, a Belgian spoon that also no one will ever recognize. So the objects were kind of absurd, but we took them as they were, and we decided to kind of explore what does it mean to then have this very surreal act of dining with these generated objects.
So here are some snippets from the experience. And I just heard that we have 1 minute left, so maybe we skip this part about the spatial montage,
Go through.
which is the kind of core of the kind of design thinking of our practice, how we try to kind of read the notion of the spatial montage. I'll maybe keep it very short, which is kind of referring to Lev Monovich's idea of the spatial montage as the spatial order of layers in a composite virtual space constructed through the composition, 2D movements of layers in relation to the image frame, and the relationship between the image and the linked information in the adjustment window. So for Monovich, spatial montage means multiple images appearing on a screen spontaneously, where the filmmaker must create a logic that dictates which images appear together, when they appear, and how they relate to each other. He introduces the idea through the software graphical user interface, marking a departure from traditional film montage, and in a new form, multiple visual elements that coexist on the same screen space enable real-time interaction, like in the example of the Twitch, that the screen space or the graphical user interface that can be curated by the individual becomes the kind of design space, as we mentioned before. So what, again, we have been trying to do is to kind of carry this phenomena or the method thinking from the 2D to the 3D to kind of test the spatial affordances that the spatial montage can offer. So yeah, we go into this a bit more deeper with live editing and remixing spaces that are streamed across places to constitute a new space that where the architecture or the inhabited physical space becomes the envelope to kind of create a new hybrid media object that one can inhabit, where the online event takes place in the private space of home. Yeah, so I think, I mean, it goes on maybe 5-6 more minutes. Maybe we stop it here like that. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for your attention.
Thanks. My name's Miguel. Thank you for this wonderful presentation and your presentation yesterday at the library. It was wonderful. I think like everyone else, I'm fascinated by, I think, the aesthetics of what you're presenting, but also about the interplay between I guess the material or physical environment that you lay out and the non-physical or virtual environment. And I find this kind of very complex layered interplay between one thing and the other really, really fascinating. And I was wondering if you could just elaborate a bit more on that. I'm also particularly fascinated, it's a kind of second part of the question, about the objects and the cutlery. And you said, and perhaps that a bit that needs more clarifying, or that I would like to hear more about. You said the AI has generated them or played a role in generating them. I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about that process. So do you enunciate that verbally? Does the artificial intelligence do something? Do you get a 3D model that you print out? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great question. Maybe you answer it first, you want it.
I mean, maybe to start trying to answer, we decided to have this overlay of physical and digital moments because we don't believe that we will ever move to virtual spaces and forget our physical reality. Still, augmented reality research is something that is happening, driven by big tech companies. They are investing a lot of money in it. So it might happen at some point that we will pop in our lives without expectation, just functioning perfectly. So this is a question that we have that we don't know exactly how to answer, but that we are exploring. So we decided to create this physical setup upon which we have a digital layer and a digital social space. And the objects were born basically out.
Yeah,
Please.
go ahead. No, go
No.
ahead. No, I just wanted to add what you said. Like maybe as designers and architects, we feel like we see it as our duty to kind of practice the virtual space for understanding online community space, because we know that it's governed by big tech companies and research groups that uses as like virtual simulation and learning environments for AI agents that are like robot vacuum cleaners that learns through the machine vision how to navigate home space. So perhaps like we as architects could also try to understand these tools to kind of learn how to make spaces. And yeah, go ahead with
the objects were basically born out of our conversation with this AI agent Parasite. So at some point we decided, okay, we do this dinner event. Please tell us what we should do, no? Which object should we have in this physical space? And we asked it to give us some prompts. So we took the prompts as they are, and we, at the time, it was 2 years ago. So the first text to 3D models were coming out.
text and nerve models, yeah.
Both. And so we took these prompts, we generated these 3D objects that then we basically took as they were and produced through ceramic-based additive manufacturing technology, trying to not interfere in this process and just then observe what does it mean to have them on the table.
And the motivation behind it in the beginning was like this, not fascination, but like being overstimulated or shocked by what they can do. Like basically it kind of changes the future of designing if you see it from again architecture point of view, that you don't have to design anymore. The Internet Archive, this Liang project, the dataset 6 billion high resolution annotated images, it constituted its own generative model. So what does it mean then to design? You don't design anymore, you just curate the content, you just you just pick some kind of 3D object based on semantic meaning. But what does it actually mean? Does it really mean that, like, can it actually operate such thing as the dinner event if it created a spoon or a plate, or so this was the kind of motivation or like the irony behind it. Like, okay, so we just pick and curate some kind of objects from the endless data set. Yeah.
The objects are so incredibly sophisticated. They are incredibly sophisticated. I think it's a testament to what you're saying. I mean, it's a very big question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it goes into the more like the semantic or language direction, I think, like where and what these diffusion models do when you kind of combine two meanings, and it creates a kind of 3D representation that has a completely new meaning out of it. Yeah, I think so too. It is super interesting. Yeah.
One very short question.
Yes.
A very short one, maybe because I was already hungry, and I wondered in how far the social agent totally ignored any kind of question or triggering related to taste or smell. I mean, in the light of also what we heard from Mona from the Sensory Studies Lab at Concordia in Montreal, and how far you would need to train and what would be needed to have a multisensory kind of implication or integration of data relating to taste and smell, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Is that even thinkable? Because I would have liked to ask the Parasite, how does the blue lemon cake taste like?
Yeah.
Okay, and then first, we are not the developers, so our knowledge, we are not in the position of creating an AI agent. No, we patched together APIs in a way that we can manage it, and then we studied something that was already somehow there. So the idea of integrating senses into a intelligent system, if we can even call it intelligence. I mean, I agree with Monica when she has a problem in calling it artificial intelligence. is, do we need it? In a way, our project was also about trying to expose this moment in which it was obvious from the beginning to us that this AI agent will behave weirdly, will be repetitive, sometimes surprising, sometimes subversive, but still somehow also not what we are, no? So
no, I think I'll think a bit more about the question and then answer in the lunch break. Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cenk and Anna. The next presenter is Yindi Chen, who's online.
In this presentation titled Sentient Plants, I will take some artworks as examples to speak briefly about how we humans perceive the animacy of plants. I'll begin with the German artist Maximilian Pfluffer's video work, a gift from him. In many places of the world, insect species face extinction due to the overuse of pesticides. This film explores the consequences of environmental destruction upon the pollination process within agriculture. The artist visited Sichuan province in China to research the mechanisms behind human-pollinated fruit trees. He found that the local farmers use bamboo sticks with chicken feathers attached to the ends and distribute pollen onto individual flowers. Maximilian filmed the entire process of hand pollination and the transport of the fruits to nearby markets. These farmers have adapted to the reduced biological diversity. Instead of wind and insects, humans perform the role of pollinators in this natural cycle. Hand pollination, as a kind of mechanical act, sustains the components of the natural food chain as well as the local economy. We could think of this as farmers pollinating the trees and selling the fruits for economic benefits. But what if we consider the inverse? It's the fruit trees want us, humans, to serve as messengers and pollinators, so they could achieve fertility in a disturbed ecology, a patchy Anthropocene. So the trees are the subject, and it's the trees that have claimed their agency. According to the scholar Mel Chen, animacy has been described as a quality of agency, awareness, mobility, and liveliness. He also points out that the term animacy is widely debated within linguistics. Mel Chen has given an example. In English, we wouldn't say the hackers that rocks crash. Rather, we usually say the hackers who crashed the rock, or the rock that the hacker crashed. Humans are always the subject that perform the act, and non-humans lack agency in the language we use. I'm also thinking about this Chinese character, mu. Its literal meaning is wood, but in Chinese slang, we could use this word as an adjective, which means a person is insensitive and clumsy. So the underlying logic in imposing the meaning of insensitivity to this word is that wood or plants are not considered sentient. The modern languages we use are typically only capable of accounting for human agency and its effects. Martin Heidegger wrote, "Where there is no language, as in the being of stone, plant, and animal, there is also no openness, either of that which is not and of the empty." In this quote, there is not only the denial of animacy in non-humans, but also an ordered hierarchy of beings, ranking from minerals to plant, to non-human animal to human. The hierarchy or classification was introduced by the Swedish biologist called Linnaeus. His book Systema Naturae was published in the 18th century, in which he established a system for classifying the three kingdoms of the natural world: minerals, plants, and animals. He also proposed the sexual taxonomy of plants, describing the plant world in an anthropomorphic, heteronormative way, stamens as husbands and pistils as wives. The inheritances of the systems in science, and here botanical taxonomies, reflect how contemporary hierarchies define and rank gender, animacy, and different types of life forms. These frameworks have been long leading to both intrahuman and human non-human modes of domination. In Isadora Navimalkis' The Pudic Relation Between Machine and Plant, the artist filmed a sensitive plant being touched by a finger-like machine, causing it to close in on itself. The sensitive plant, also known as Mimosa pudica, derives its name from Linnaeus' sexual taxonomy. Pudica referring to the external sexual organs and shyness. Linnaeus' gendered nature made sex the founding principle of nature and classified the vegetal world based on human reproduction. In fact, many plants possess both male and female sexual characteristics, which contrasts with the gender perspective of humans who are assumed to come in two distinct sexual varieties. We are not accustomed to think outside of the binary framework. The often considered insensate, immobile plants actually animate human life. They also have multiple uses in decolonial feminist and queer struggles. Plant nature is queer nature. In the research of artists Candice Lin and P. Stuff, they found that pine pollen, a plant-based substance that contains high levels of a cytohormone, very similar to human testosterone. Our bodies share similar substances with plants. Their installation, hormonal fog, used fog machines to emit a vaporized tincture made with herbs that increase estrogen and suppress testosterone in the human body. The fog helps us realize the porosity of our bodies through the process of breathing and exhaling. At the end of this presentation, I'd like to mention a particular material, lacquer. Lacquer is traditionally used to produce lacquer wire in East Asia. It's from the sap of lacquer tree, which is a species native to southern China and the Indian subcontinent. To get lacquer sap, people have to cut and tape the tree. While this may seem like a violent and extractive act toward the trees, if they are not taped, the trees will swell with overproduced sap and die within 5 to 7 years. Artists who work with lacquer often say that lacquer bites people because the sap contains urushiol, an oily mixture of organic compounds with allergenic properties that can cause very serious skin allergies. The verb bite suggests a bodily, intimate experience with the trees, and in this way, the trees reveal its subjectivity. Symbiotic relationships are not only seen as purely reciprocal, but perhaps also harmful and toxic. It's about how we perceive or recognize the sentience, the animacy of other beings. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for a really interesting presentation. Yeah, especially I think the beginning part with this human pollination. However, this is a practice in a farming, of course, in agriculture. So it's quite usual practice. But somehow when you show these blossoming trees and a human trying to pollinate them, so then it's already becomes more interesting how we are replacing ourselves, the insects, for example, or wind or other pollinators. So maybe how you what is your trace, how you came up with this very interesting research about this from pollination to bisexual plant co-evolution or what?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I now work as a curator, so my research really derives from my reading of artworks and also my collaboration with artists. And for this kind of particular research, my my like a few years ago, my research I was more interested in the so-called Anthropocene, but then like in recent years, I just turned my research more to plants because it's kind of like we as humans, we are also animals, and we really pay more attention to animals, and also plants. It's kind of in some way ignored, and also the queerness of plants. So we often talk about queer series or feminist series in our human world. But I think in recent years, I'm also quite interested in ecofeminism and also queer ecology. It's about how how the domination of females and also the natural world is interrelated in some way. And I think I saw this artworks in different times, and I just realized they could be put together, and I'm just quite interested. Yeah.
Have you curated already such exhibition?
No, it's still in process.
Plans. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next presentation we have Tuçe EREL with Echoes of the Future, Artistic Interventions, Confronting Artificial Nature's Myths and Ecological Narratives. Tuçe is a Berlin-based curator and writer and cultural worker. She studied sociology, earned MA in art theory and criticism, and arts policy management in London. EREL's curatorial interests include ecology, Anthropocene, posthumanism, and post-digital theories, integrating her sociology background into her research. Her challenges conventional methodologies exploring concepts like biopolitics and ecological crisis through hacking and artistic speculation. EREL has been a team member at Art Laboratory Berlin since 2020. Thank you for being here.
Laboratory Berlin, and I'm delighted to return to RIXC Festival. Actually, 5 years ago, I was here again to present another project that I created in 2019, and now I'm happy to just present Echoes of the Future, a project that is aligned with the theme of artificial natures. The exhibition Echoes of the Future focuses on the narratives and aesthetics, practices emerging from the environmental crisis, prompting and re-evaluation of the myths and rituals that have shaped both past and present cultures. It seeks to address critical questions: who tells these stories and what politics inform their narratives? In a time when human activity has accelerated the environmental crisis, we must examine the meaning of the rituals and cultural practices. So 2 years before, Professor Jonathan Chorsch from the Theology Department at Potsdam University invited me to curate an exhibition in parallel with a conference, Myth, Ritual and Practice for the Age of Ecological Catastrophe, which took place from May 17 to 19 in 2024. And since 2017, I have developed my curatorial narrative around posthumanism, focusing on ecology. As a non-affiliated and independent researcher, this collaboration with the conference particularly appealed to me. And preparing to this exhibition, I carefully considered whom I wanted to collaborate with and which artists to invite, and I aimed to connect storytelling with mythological reference to unpack pressing environmental issues. Through my research and discussions with artists, I connected with Udo Koloska and Jenny Alton, who are part of a collective called Artifact in Potsdam. So with their suggestion, we realized this project in a unique site, Biosphäre Potsdam, a privately owned medium-sized rainforest. The exhibition venue has undergone significant transformations. The land, which once served as a military training ground, became a relic of a federal horticultural show in 2001 and was transformed into the man-made rainforest, Biosphäre Potsdam, which opened to the public in 2002. Working within this transformed site compelled both me as the curator and the artist to crystallize their questions and engage with the various mediums and interventions in this man-made jungle. And I use men on purpose. The Biosphäre Potsdam serves as a pivotal backdrop for Echoes of the Future, offering a unique venue and a rich historical context that deepens the project's exploration of artificial nature. Federal Horticultural Show, which is the short called BUGA in German, because the word is Bundesgartenschau, has been an ongoing biennial since 1951. BUGA is a significant horticultural landscape and showcasing innovative gardening and landscape design, while also aiming to promote ecological awareness and sustainability, but I will come to that in a minute. In 2001, the old military ground was made into Volkspark, which means park for the public. And after the show closed in Potsdam, the building was converted into Biosphäre Potsdam, which opened in 2002. This man-made rainforest is a striking example of human interventions in nature, constructed within a massive glass and concrete structure. It houses hundreds of plant species and various animal inhabitants, creating a controlled environment that simulates tropical ecosystems. This setting not only highlights the complexities of human-made ecosystems, but also reflects on our relationship with nature, raising questions about authenticity, sustainability, and the role of art addressing ecological issues. The relevance of the biosphere is further underscored by the cancellation of the Rostov BUGA project scheduled for 2025. This decision reflects the ongoing challenges faced by large-scale ecological initiatives amid a backdrop of climate crisis and shifting political priorities. The cancellation signals a growing recognition of the difficulties of mobilizing public and political support for ambitious landscape planning projects, echoing the sentiments expressed by German sociologist Jens Becker regarding the systemic failures in addressing climate change. After this context, to do direct connection to artificial natures, let me go through the positions in Echoes of the Future, which features a diverse array of artistic interventions that critically engage with the complexities of our relationship with nature and ecological crisis. Each artist brings a unique perspective, utilizing various mediums to explore consumption, loss, and the interconnectedness of human and non-human experiences. So you see Kate Wenzel's large-scale bone sculpture called Leviathan, a striking 6-meter-long sculpture, was hanging in the entrance of the tropical rainforest. Wenzel's visceral creations serve as poignant commentaries on consumer behavior and our relationship with the modern human world. Drawing inspiration from Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, which was published in 1651, and the term Capitalocene coined by Jason W. Moore and Haraway, Wenzel closely examined concepts of nature, longing, and consumption. Her sculpture, crafted from animal bones collected from restaurant bins and roadkills, resembles a whale, a biblical sea monster that symbolizes humanity's exploitation and near extinction of species. Through Leviathan, Wenzel critiques our detachment from the nature and the consequences of mass consumption, while her series of bone birds, approximately 30 sculptures scattered throughout the jungle, evoke themes of escape and freedom. At the entrance of the tropical hall, Udo Koloska unveils his sound and light installation, Afterlife. This work draws attention to the large-scale loss of forests in the Harz Mountains, where approximately 4 out of 5 spruce trees have succumbed to drought, monoculture, and bark beetle infestation. I'm going to start playing a little bit the sound installation while I'm talking about it. So Kolosko, who has witnessed the ongoing deforestation of the national park since his childhood, employs field recordings from the Upper Harz to create a multisensory experience. Utilizing audio to trigger light pulses, Kolosko references 17th century galvanism and earlier Romantic philosophy, linking the organic with the technological. His installation merges sound and light, producing rhythmic structures that reflects the ongoing transformation of the ecosystem and evoke a sense of loss and survival amidst ecological devastation. For this installation, the sound recordings are made from the inner bodies of the dead trees, and during the recording, Udo also manipulates and brings his own engagement in the agency of the field recording. As visitors traverse the pathways connecting the lush environment, they encounter Svante Günsel's site-specific work. Her installation features a digital panel that highlights the valuable seeds safeguarded in the Swanbold Global Seed Vault on the Norwegian islands of Spitsbergen. For over 20 years, Günsel has been exploring the profound changes humans made inflicted on nature. Her LED panels, a list of the her LED panel displays a list of 1.3 million seed samples stored in the vault, which serves as both a safeguard of global food supply and a reminder of the fragility of biodiversity. This duality reflects the complexities of human interventions in nature, protective yet exclusive. As a pathway winds deeper in the tropical jungle, visitors are greeted by Patricia Detmering's immersive installation From a Wild Weird Climb. This multifaceted artwork features not only drawings, but also a unique blend of physical and virtual elements that explore themes of myth, perception, and the fragility of existence. The installation includes drawings that have been specifically reproduced to be water resistant, allowing them to withstand with the high humidity of the biosphere's jungle tropical environment. These drawings are intricately shaped over the natural stone structures in the jungle, creating a seamless integration between the artwork and the site. They depict a laiku, a modern mythological creature that feeds on dreams, manipulating the biochemical process of dopamine and serotonin to invade the subconscious of its victims. In addition to drawings, Detmering presents sculptural objects that mimics the bones of a lost and extinct creature, adding a tangible dimensions to her exploration of memory and loss. This element reinforces the themes of extinction and the relationship between the humanity and the natural world, of prompting reflection on what has been lost. To enhance the experience, Detmering incorporates a virtual aspect through augmented reality, allowing viewers to access digital representation of her drawings, the laiku, through their mobile devices. This AR component visualizes the interplay between the physical and the virtual realities, inviting the audience to engage with the narratives and myths surrounding them more effectively. Visitors can encounter these floating stories as they navigate the jungle, blending the lines between the organic and then the synthetic, the real and the imagined. As visitors make their way through the tropical jungle, they encounter Jenny Elton's installation Cool, Dark, Waterproof, situated near the artificial waterfall. This thought-provoking piece consists of outdoor tents, which serve as a critique of consumer culture and the growing outdoor sector that promotes a superficial connection with nature. Alton's work challenges the tendency of individuals to engage with the environmental through high-tech materials that ultimately harm the ecosystems they seek to appreciate. Alton contends that the concept of nature religions and the supposed closeness to nature attributed to these beliefs often serve as a tool for European control and demarcation. This altar perpetuates a Christian-influenced narrative that emphasizes a discontinuity between humans and nature, portraying nature as an entity separate from human existence rather than an integral part of it. In her critique, Alton highlights the idyllic portrayal of nature promoted by Back to Nature trend, juxtaposed against the reality of alienation that this trend can create. By utilizing semi-permeable membranes, symbolic of the technologies that protect us from the elements, she underscores our inability to see ourselves as part of the environment. As the exhibition draws to a close, visitors encounter Cecil Wesolowski's light and sound installation Time Waterfall in the research room of the Biosfera Potsdam. Utilizing stroboscopic light techniques, Wesolowski creates a visual illusion of a reverse waterfall, prompting reflections on the perception of time and its fluidity. This installation invites viewers to consider the intricate relationship between technology and nature, challenging them to think critically about the narratives and shape our understanding of the world through these artistic interventions, Echoes of the Future. So in conclusion, Echoes of the Future artistic interventions served as a compelling exploration of the intricate relation between humanity and an environment through diverse artistic expressions. The exhibition critically engages with the narratives, myths, and aesthetic practices that have shaped cultural responses to ecological degradation, questioning who narrates these stories and the politics of what is sayable in the face of climate catastrophe. My situation thus works within the artificial landscape of Biosphere Potsdam, a site laden with the contradictions as a former military training ground and a relic of a federal horticultural show. The artist addresses issues of consumerism, anthropocentric interventions, and ecological exploitation. Their interventions challenge the paradoxical ways in which society attempts to reconnect with nature through commodified high-tech experiences that often reinforce boundaries, reflecting Jens Becker's analysis of systemic failures that hinder meaningful climate action. As the exhibition highlights the ongoing tensions between cultural practices and environment realities, it invited viewers to reflect on collective role in the ecological narrative critically. Thank you.
I wondered, did you observe how the visitors reacted to the exhibition and what were their reflections about the nature and the first time?
Unfortunately, I was not directly getting this interaction during the exhibition time because it took 3.5 months. But then we asked the people who are working there. And because Biosphere is also an interesting place where like kindergarten kids are coming there, schools are going there, or you see this like elders are coming there because they have a discount on certain days. And the colleagues who are working in this venue, either the workers and the visitors, they had an issue to just grasp the projects in general. Although we gave them a guided tour at the very beginning, and then we simplified the language, we had QR codes, we just put everything more in the accessible, non-academic texts. And still, we have also get some feedbacks that some of the people were just kind of disturbed that we did this like interventions in this place. And because there were regulars who were just coming and then just like enjoying this like a tropical ecosystem in the middle of the winter, and when they're coming in the summertime and then they were just seeing this like an objects and they were just like questioning why they are here. But with this why question and then this like a disturbance, I think this is a good sign from my perspective as a creator who wants to create this like a critical situation, but maybe not the way that we always assume and want. But despite this like several feedbacks, there were also good feedbacks that there were interested audience who were just giving feedback that they find it very interesting, disturbing, and weird to just have those encounters. And then this was exactly the purpose, to create this like a weirdness in this already a weird place. But they were not aware of this like a weirdness because they were there to just enjoy this like a botanical garden experience. We disturbed them in a good way, I guess, hopefully.
Hi,
Right.
I'm online. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just want to say something about my feeling about your presentation. I also have the understanding for the intervening of science fiction and the math provides us with an entirely new path for understanding the human and the nature as a gender based on the constructive vision of the future and the imagination worlds. The math this way, or the science fiction as a methods, actually carried many traits of traditional methods. The fusion of math and the sci-fi is not only a retrospection of the past, but also a foresight of the future. I just have some feeling about that, I want to say.
Thank you for the comment. Yeah, interesting. Can you repeat the author again?
Sorry? No, not the author. I just my feeling about that.
Yeah, okay. I thought that you mentioned the name of the author. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. So we move to the next presentation, which is also by XIAO. Tide, generative AI as a catalyst for ecological awareness and symbiotic science. Yang Zhao is an interdisciplinary artist and PhD candidate. specializing in plant autonomy and human-plant interaction. She integrates her personal experience with sociology and biology to explore themes such as plant intelligence, ecological crisis, and identity dogma relationships. Holding an MA in art and science, her work has been featured at major international venues, including London Design Festival, Shanghai Exhibition Center, and Arsenal di Venezia.
Hello everyone, I'm Liang, an interdisciplinary artist and a PhD candidate at RMIT University. My research focuses on the intersection of art, technology, and ecology, particularly the interaction between humans and non-human life, exploring plant autonomy, entangled presence, and intelligent behavior. Today, I would like to share with you my artistic project, Tide. This is a film work that incorporated generative AI technology. Through it, I explore how generative AI can act as a catalyst for ecological awareness and symbiotic science. Focuses on mangrove ecosystems in the context of environmental crisis, using generative AI to decode the complex natural data, helping us break the established boundaries between human and non-human life and promoting reflection on ecological crisis. During the creation of Tide, I was deeply concerned about the issue of Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge. I had conducted field research in mangrove parks in Shenzhen, China, and Melbourne, Australia, collecting environmental data on mangrove ecosystems and transforming it into a sensory visual experience. I often ponder how to avoid a human-centric perspective in my creation. Thought it's challenging to achieve a true plant-centric perspective. Donna Haraway, in Stating with the Trouble, speaking of technology as a part of the symbiotic relationship between humans and non-human life. This concept influenced my work by positing generative AI not just as a creative tool, but as an active participant in fostering a deeper understanding of ecological interdependence, thus bridging the gap between human and non-human agent. This inspired my thinking about ecological cooperation and the role of technology as a collaborator. AI is not only a tool, but a symbiotic partner in understanding nature, challenging tradition, and surpassing treason. Moreover, James Bridle discussed the diversity of intelligence and existence. Rosie Bridle in The Post-Human re-examined the role of humans in ecosystems and how intelligence can transcend anthropocentric definitions. In my work, I view the innate abilities of plants as a form of intelligence, which does not rely on humans, but is rooted in their adaptation and response to their environment. Therefore, in Tide, I use generative AI to simulate and transform the evolutionary forms of plants. This demonstrates that intelligence is not exclusive to humans, but a shared trait among the species, challenging our dominance over nature and advocating for plant rights. This cross-species and technological collaboration expands our perception and redefines intelligence in a symbiotic, scientific way. It's no longer exclusively human, but a blend of human and nature. I believe that in future ecological art practice, the collaboration between AI and humans will become a new form of practice-led research, promoting closer symbiotic relations between us and nature.
Thanks for your presentation. I really enjoy your video. It's really poetic and beautiful. I just have a question about the character in this video. Do you perceive yourself as a female when you make the video? And do you have preference, like what kind of woman kind of to imagine she's body being a tree, like to present in the video? Thank you.
For this question, I have a really interesting things to want to share. When I made this work, I just used the text and some sketch and to generate. And the sketch is only for some shape, not about the skin color or some country representing about this man or woman. But you know, the AI have lots of data collection from the different agency or from different people. Sometimes we can know the AI more like the tiny or the like the tiny society, the Vygintas society. So it generation the some bright. I just give the promo to them about the women who have the power about that, and you can see in the main screen the main character. The AI give a woman who have the bright skin. I think it's meaningful for that.
Okay, so maybe it would be more meaningful if you would use really the woman as a yeah, as an image in your also conceptually, because you said so that you try to avoid the perspective of human, try to show the perspective of plants, but this is exactly what we don't see in the video. We don't see in the video because it's even the camera has exactly the human height. I mean, there is nothing we go above, beyond, or whatever, soil, light, stars, you know, everything that plants sees.
Yeah.
In this video, it's I would say it's rather very, very anthropocentric. And that's why this woman to bring in, female perspective, maybe would make much, much more sense, at least in your explanation.
Yeah, I really agree your idea because I know I can do really it's a real plan-centric perspective. So when that's why I think use the AI or technology as my methods to create something. I just want to use this perspective to influence audience or humans' feeling about how to think about your new position with a plant.
Okay, but you say the other way around. You try to avoid this perspective. Okay, and the second remark is, what did you said that AI helped you understand more about the nature. What exactly did you learn from AI with regards to understanding the nature?
In this research step, I have some about use AI just as talk with the AI how because the AI can represent many humans' perspective. So I use the AI resources as my another partner. I talk with them and to design the story, telling the narrative.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We will. The next presenter is Robert LISEK, also online. So Robert is an artist, mathematician, and composer who focuses on systems, networks, and processes, computational, biological, and social. He is involved in a number of projects focused on media art, creative storytelling, and interactive art. Drawing upon post-conceptual art, software, and metamedia, his work intentionally defies categorization.
So I have double background. I'm a mathematician and artist, and I would like to talk today about future of art, but by describing my project, which I'm working here in Bangalore in Raman Research Institute, which is a quantum physics institute. So I will talk about quantum worlds, and the big question is how we can really perceive these words, yeah, how we can perceive like masses of events, quantum states which happen on quantum or particle level. So I'm building a project which is called Quantum Agents, and I'm going to involve quantum physics theory, one of the most advanced theory in quantum physics, which connect many domains of quantum physics. I'm still researching how to present some results of this research. I mean, starting with mathematical equations, with programming, with quantum optics, and then the problem is and challenge is that light, we have description and treating light as electromagnetic waves, and sound in some mechanical waves which requires air or another medium. It can be crystal or materials to spread. So we have totally high level description what is light and sound. Even some some people from physical science dealing with photons. So I looked for a long time to find something fundamental which can combine good model which can combine photons and phonons. And the question how it can be later presented. So I'm started like a month ago with some quantum harmonic oscillators, but with masses of them and Hamiltonians. Then I went to more advanced techniques to observe how these systems can evolve in time. So the best description to deal with like with time parameter is Dirac model. So I started to program and using online quantum computing and KIT language. Yeah, then I adapted also AI and neural network, because this real quantum computer are still with noise and very, very expensive. And so I consider how you can get more data. I'm working with masses of events, sound or light events. So I adapted like transformer neural network to estimate more data. And at the end, it is some techniques to visualize or to create sound from this data. So it is tricky how to really make it. It is still open problem. And I'm going to make this ambitious goal. I'm going to make kind of quantum light and sound synthesis, totally new techniques of synthesis. Yeah, project is still open. I have still like month or 2 months to research and to implement and present this project. But anyway, for me, important is that I'm not working only in metaphorical words and in the space of social problems or social absorption, what we called quantum. Yeah, here are some examples. I started with very simple quantum waves with probabilities, and then I trying to synthesize it as a sound and visual elements. Yesterday I made this kind of test in science gallery in Bangalore. Many of these materials, and okay, the technique is difficult, because if you want to catch these words, quantum words, you can have problems with perception. You can imagine, but in the sense of mathematics, many topological spaces. But then, as an artistic practice, you need to visualize or sonify or make some magic. Yeah, here are some examples of another artworks. I used it like 10 years ago. Autoencoders, then transformers a few years ago, to generate many objects and spaces, architectural or another. I'm working with like large scale installations, and yeah, that the first big challenge was how to simulate like deterministic house by neural network. So I programmed some strange, like bank of strange attractors using neural networks. But I'm dealing also with meta learning, so the same network can be adapted to many situations. This project, like 15 years ago, Symbiotic is kind of entity where you can train on cyberpunk. I'm working with immersive installation, but not Euclidean. So you have more elliptic and strange spaces to go inside. But I'm making also rituals with lights and performers, and very old rituals I'm adapting to in viral capital. I mix my DNA with DNA of many disease codes and viruses. It is like 20 years old project, but it stayed like popular during COVID time, and every museum wanted to have this project. So idea was radical. You are mixing. Now it is maybe natural, but it was shocking when I started that you are mixing your DNA with an DNA of some viruses. Sometimes I'm making wet projects. In Spectrum, I created new type of bacteria, and I made like gene boxing. The goal was to create bacteria which spread like 100 or 1,000 times quicker in the water. So I created and I presented in the gallery scenario of bioattack of city Warsaw, capital of Poland. I come from Poland. I'm living in Berlin. And yeah, this kind of project when you can find and combine machine learning with wet biotechnology. I'm working a lot of large scale projections. Sometimes I'm working with like 10 artists, directors, musicians, or entities, software. Here, I'm just finishing maybe short movie. This is project like which I made like year ago.
It's almost like a divination or prophecy.
Sorry, unfortunately, we don't hear the sound due to computer sound not included, probably. We have it here on our computer. Should we show it? Should we display it?
Not if you want, but it is not necessary. You can imagine that there is like multi-projection system and kind of ritual when many things happen. I'm trying not use AI when it happened popular by chatting only, but I'm making like thousands of sessions, and then I'm making like average of this as a scenario for ritual. So I'm sure that there is nothing which is hallucination or whatever. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
The thing is that maybe I will start. Many quantum physics is like quantum field theory especially is treated as a like most perfect description of reality. Reality is super complex and you have masses of catastrophes or many things happen. So potentially whatever you present from reality, it is quantum. So it is big question how to find like fundamentals of our reality or some level and present it as an art practice.
Vygintas ORLOVAS will present Emergence in Interactive Art, the case of the exhibition Non-Human Communications. Dr. Vygintas ORLOVAS is an artist researcher whose current research and creative practice is focused on interactive art and the relations of sound and image. Vygintas defended his doctoral degree in Vilnius Academy and is currently teaching and working as a researcher there.
I'd like to thank the organizational committee for having me here, for inviting me here, and my first time participating in RIXC by now, but last one I remember was fully online, so it's very nice to see everyone in person again and be present in the possibility for discussions. This specific exhibition that I want to talk about is directly related to a workshop that I've organized last year and kind of had to step into the boots of a curator, even though I primarily present myself as an artist researcher. But it was a case where I understood that it was a question that I couldn't tackle alone, as the main focus of my current research was emergence and specifically interactive art, and asking the question, would and how could interactive artworks form their own interactions and connections with each other if they were placed in a singular space, in a space where they would be in the vicinity of each other. And would they perhaps form some interactions that were not predefined by the authors, by the creators of the work? So kind of create a space where the artworks themselves could have a kind of autonomy. And to kind of better understand how I even got to this question, I guess I want to turn this into an exploration of artist thinking as well, and not only discuss the exhibition, but kind of the questions that led me there. So the core research that I started with when exploring interactive art was Strategies of Interactive Art by Ryszard Kulczynski, published in 2010, where Kulczynski created a massive work and created an archive of various interactive works and tried to define their qualities and the strategies behind the interactions themselves, how to kind of unveil this whole huge cloud of simply interactivity into a possibility for a discussion about how the interactions form, and define these strategies. One category as the instrument, where we can look at an artwork very simply as kind of an interaction of like pushing a button. You do something and something happens, whether it is motion or actually pushing a key or a string, but it's kind of a simple interaction in the sense that it's very largely predefined. But he went to explore even broader categories, such as a game where it has its own rules, and maybe the participants become parts of the work themselves and interact according to a set system. And the archive, and honestly, I should probably keep my time and not spend all it on discussing the strategies. So yes, I guess if someone is curious in the field of interactivity, I think this, at least for me, served as a very good starting point to kind of get a feel for what's already been done in the field and what the possible interactions are. And my approach in the current postdoctoral research was to explore it through a practice-based approach, rather than just discussing theory and artworks created by others, to actually try and apply the strategies to create artworks for each of the different strategy, and see how would spectators and visitors or possible collaborators for the work react to it, and what kind of interactions each of the strategy facilitates. And to do specifically this task, I want to jump to a recent exhibition of my own that I solo show that I had in 2023 back in Vilnius in Gallery Artifacts, where I tried to embody some of these strategies into artworks. And here I'll try showing a brief video and so this was kind of embodying the strategy of the instrument, but turning a plant into an instrument. And the title of the exhibition was Without Learning Nothing, as a reference to my possible new poem, but also to the idea that interactive artworks without the spectator are kind of not finished, they need the interaction. And explore the strategy of the instrument that I extracted one part of the guitar part and slice it into samples. The plant will trigger the intensity of the touch, trigger different parts of it. We still have this variety. A bit. Another part of the exhibition was a microphone connected just to the space to kind of visualize the sounds, everything that was going on in the space. So, and another slightly different instrument was the modular synthesizer and connecting the blades to work as pens and movement and changes the kind of strategy more of a game structure was where I scanned various objects, like 3D scanned them and created in kind of a game system in Unity that was both exploring the strategy of the game because it had a dance pad and rules of possibly interacting over mouse and keyboard, but it was also an archive of various artworks, both the 3D scans themselves and the sounds that would start playing once you approach the 3D scan. So kind of a position of a virtual character also turned it into trigger for sounds. And all of these sounds were connected back to a singular mixing console to possibly for a potential visitor to just listen to everything that's happening at the same time, to kind of experience it as a system, as a network of works. But at that time, I wasn't focused on the concept of emergence just yet, but that was what inspired me. But in this case, it was a system, but the artworks themselves were not interacting with each other. They were not affecting how they could interact. And that's where I understood that this would be a question that I would prefer to tackle with other minds and have a discussion kind of group around it. And through the wonderful part of being in a environment of Art Academy, which is also part of Erasmus Plus and Kuno network, I had a chance to just invite students from both of these networks to participate in a discussion and workshop on interactivity and emergence. In this course, I was very happy that we had quite a lot of applications and chance to kind of host a curation process of selecting the artists, and here's the poster for it with all the names of the participants. And the core goal of this was to create artworks that would have some possibility for an interaction, to have some kind of input to react to something and some output that others could react to as well. And the space that we could work with, and this is, I guess, the view of the exhibition, was quite intense in the architecture itself. It wasn't white cubes, so that immediately sparked lots of discussions about site specificity and kind of shifted a bit away from the element of interactive art itself. And this was an element that, of course, involved lots of other topics in it, thanks to just each person having their own questions relevant to them. So through the process of just mind mapping and working together, we've kind of come to this result. And I'd like to just show some of the works again. So let me switch to a video to explore them. So all of the works had some kind of sensor, and most of them were very kind of basic, just using microphones, cameras, motion sensors, and some kind of movement. And is that sound in this? Or okay. Yeah, so for example, this work, Hydrologic, involved questions about labor as well, and the unpaid labor specifically, but also surveillance. And this was just done thanks to a just simple surveillance camera connected to it that was tracking motion, and already through that creating movement of its own. To just jump to some examples that actually sparked interaction, I think the Rhombocyzer was the one that interacted most with the other works, because it was creating motion that others could react. And just very briefly, since we only have 2 minutes left, there were 2 works that functioned in a very similar way to track motion, and one of them that you saw previously, Johnny, was changing its shape through touch designers, like patching and creating sounds based on the motion. So that created a really interesting link with the room besides the moving around. Whereas another work that was focused more on human detection and used touch designer as well, but a different patch. It did not even detect the Roomba moving unless it was human, like facial recognition. So each of the works, to kind of conclude this, they did form some connections, but not necessarily something that would evolve into entirely unpredictable areas. And to kind of move to that, what my next step in research is, and what I would like to invite everyone, if you are creating some interactive works, is an initiative that I've just bought the domain for yesterday, interactiveart.works, where I want to create an archive of interactive works with tags, let's say, which strategy we're using, short descriptions to kind of create a map with these connections that we could see, and also to kind of create a platform for a better understanding of interactive art, to not just be this kind of cloud term that is hard to decipher, but to kind of go into the details and host discussions around that. So yeah, that could be my conclusion on this.
Everybody wants to go to it. I wanted just to ask how big you think would be the archive of all interactive art.
Well, that's a very open question. I don't know how much, I can talk about it publicly to get people to submit their own works, because that will be an essential part. If there's no interest and no discussions about it, then I might submit my own works. The students who participated in this exhibition might upload something, and it will be like that. But I hope to create a system where it could grow potentially and actually become useful for someone who's interested in the field.